there, everyone. Welcome to Riff on This, candid conversations behind the music in Florida. And if you know anything about Florida and its music, you know this is a big old state and we have a ton of talent. But we're here for all of the juicy details and amazing stories flowing through all the genres in the Sunshine State. I'm your host, Samara Kokinas, taking a break from the weather to catch a musical vibe with you. In 1971, the English rock band Foghat formed in London, quickly becoming known for its use of electric slide guitar and its hard-rocking blues hits. Over the last 51 years, the band has achieved 8 gold records, 1 platinum, and 1 double platinum record, responsible for some of the greatest anthems in classic rock. Despite lineup changes, the group continues to rock on today, recording and touring across the nation. Please help me welcome one of the original founding members and iconic English drummer Arcello-Earl, alongside the Foghat band manager, who happens to be his lovely wife, Linda Arcello-Earl. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Samara. It's nice to be here. It's Sunday, right? Is it a Sunday?
No, it's whatever day we make it here.
Okay. Then.
So yes.
Oh, it ends in Y though?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good. Oh, so we're okay.
You're great with humor. I love it. This is going to be a fun little interview with you guys because there's just so much history. And I have to tell you off the top, I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Fan. And it's classic rock and roll is just something that can take you back to that moment in time where, everything is just, it was a party or it was a moment or it was a feeling, and there's just
a lot of parties.
A lot of parties. I agree with that.
A lot of parties.
So, for maybe there's some new listeners or viewers that may not know of your music, I highly doubt it. But there could be somebody very young.
Two people.
2 people. My grandchildren, because they're not old enough. No, they've heard it for sure. Tell me exactly where Foghat got its start, because I know you're an original founder.
Right. Well, originally the 3/4 of the band was in a band called Savoy Brown in the 60s, which I joined in 1968. We left Savoy Brown, myself, Lonesome Dave, and Tony Stevens, who was the original bass player, left the band in 1971. I remained really good friends with the lead guitar player in Savoy Brown, Kim Simmons, who just passed recently, a couple of months ago. That was a bit tough.
Sorry.
And we formed Foghat in 1971. 1972, I believe, our first album came out that was produced by Dave Edmonds, who is an absolute genius. And we started. That's it. We started. We were rocking and rolling around the world.
You started out abroad, though.
Yeah, in London.
I couldn't tell.
All right. Yeah, in London.
I adore it.
I grew up in southwest London, Hounslow. I started playing drums when I was 11 or 12. I said to my dad, I want to get, because I would work after school, so I was saving my own money, and I would work on Saturday mornings in a bakery. Mm-hmm. That was fun. And anyway, I said, Dad, I want to get a motorbike. He said, well, I'm not helping you with that, son. I said, well, you had one. Silence, had nothing to do with that. So I said, well, then I want to play drums. He said, okay, maybe I can help you with that. So he knew a drum teacher.
Okay.
Who used to play with a lot of jazz drummer, jazz teacher. Used to play with a number of American musicians that came over to London. So he was really cool. I learned to play with the Henry Adler book of drum rudiments by Buddy Rich. I'm not Buddy Rich. I never was, never could be. There could only ever be one. So And that's where it started. I got my first drum kit when I was 15. I said to my drum teacher, I said, can I get a drum kit? He said, yeah, do whatever you want.
So,
I had to get his okay.
how was your setup? How was that first kit set up? Was it, just a basic kit?
It was, I'd spotted it when I'd been practicing for about a year, going to lessons for about a year. It was a black marine pearl Premier drum kit with a 22-inch bass drum, a 14-inch rack tom and a 16-inch floor tom, and 6.5 by 14 snare drum. There. Can't remember what the cymbals were, except that I had two, a ride cymbal and a crash cymbal, and my hi-hats, which were Zildjians.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did your parents, how did they feel about you having all of this music in the house? Because I'm pretty sure your mother had something to say, your father had something to say. The neighbors may have had a few things to say.
Well, one of the cool things about my parents, there was always music in the house. My father played piano and sang. My mum sang as well. There was always music. I remember one time, I've told this story many times, so I actually remember it. I was about 10 or 11. It was Jerry Lee Lewis's first single. I can't remember whether it was A Whole Lot of Shaking Going On or Great Balls of Fire, but Dad would come home at lunchtime and have lunch at home. He was a panel fitter at Aston Martin's in Feltham, which was about 2 miles down the road from where I grew up. So there was always these exotic looking cars outside the house. Anyway, came home one time to have lunch from school. I'd ride my bike home and I'd go in there and Dad had bought a single and he said, yeah, have a listen to this boy, son. He can really play the Joanna, because Dad was a piano player, so he appreciated that sort of thing. And he put on the song and we went, wow. But I remember the B-side. And it had this incredible piano solo, Mean Woman Blues. In fact, we did a new, we were jamming it about a month or so ago at the studio down here. But I remembered it, and about 2 or 3 months later, this is 1961, 62, somewhere around there, Jerry Lee Lewis came to England. I think it was maybe his second trip. And he was playing at a theatre in southwest London, the Mitcham Majestic. Whoa, where did that come from? Anyway, my father took me there. We went with my best friend, who was a bass player, Dave, and my other brother, Colin, my older brother, Colin, my other brother, Terry, and Mum. There was a whole family. We went to see Jerry Lee Lewis. And I was never the same. My mother claimed that it addled my brain. I'm not sure what an addled brain is, but it felt really good. And all I wanted to do was play drums in a rock and roll band. I did start playing piano a little bit, but drums were much louder. And drums were always my instrument. It was like, before I even started playing drums, I would bang on all the china, the lampshades with knives and forks and spoons, bang, bang, tap, tap. You're such a noisy sod, stop that, you're gonna ruin all the china. Actually, Mum and Dad I had fabulous parents. We weren't rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I never went hungry, and there was always music in the house. So I'm very, very grateful to them, because that stayed with me forever.
That sounds like a great life, honestly.
It was.
Lots of music and good food and family. Those are like those key elements that make everything so comfy in life, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, when we first, I can remember about when I was about 2, when we moved to our first house. It was in Hounslow, southwest London. And Mum and Dad would plant vegetables in the backyard, which was pretty open at the time because they were still building all these houses after the war. And we kept chickens, so there was always chickens. We never went hungry. I had too many eggs though. We won't go there though.
We had
Sorry, Mum.
chickens too. No, I get it. We had chickens too, so I totally get it. They're really sweet animals when you're nice.
Yeah,
to them,
but well,
so.
they would. We were quite friendly with them because we'd have them as chicks in the kitchen, like in a big sort of cardboard box, and like a little light in there to keep them warm. And then they were just cheeping away. They were beautiful.
They are.
And then we'd eat them.
Oh wow! Oh wow! And then we'd eat them. You know,
That was horrible.
yeah.
What is this, Mum? It's not a chicken.
It's not.
It's not a chicken.
It's a quail today.
No quails.
No quails. So, 1971, you guys got together and started rocking out. Been rocking for 51 years, but obviously there's been some changes. Before we get to that, though, how did you meet this lovely lady? She came into the picture in what, 1976?
76. Linda was became our office manager in 1976, and we remained friends, good friends, I like to think. From there on, I was at Linda's wedding, she was at mine. Linda's friendly with my ex-wives and girlfriends, and very brave. Well, only the girlfriends have counted, right?
She's like, oh, let me sip my coffee.
I'm friends with all of them. It's fine. I mean, I was around back then. It's fine.
What is that song that John Lennon wrote? You
Imagine. No.
With that one, we played it at our wedding.
Oh, in my life.
In my life, and that tends to sum up.
That summed up our life together in my life. There's places I remember, we've loved them all, you know. There's not a problem with any of that.
There was only one I didn't, but I wanted to talk about her.
You know, we all have a past, and you know, when you can just come and be very accepting of that, you know, people live.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
it is sort of like you know, there's throughout our history there have been some people that we've met that not particularly fond of, maybe an ex-manager or so, but you
we're
have
not
to
naming names, are we?
It'll be in the book.
I'm in a place now where I can put that aside. I can put it where it should be, you know, because, you know, to have hate and, you know, that destroys people. You know, you have to sort of find a place to sort of forgive them or let it go or put it in a place that it's never ever going to come up again, like burying it. But no, you can't have hate destroys you, or any, you know, you can be angry, but you have to put that in its place as well. It's about having control, and you know, having fun is the best thing to have.
It is. It is. I agree with that. I agree with that so much. So, Linda, whenever you started out as the office manager, I know you eventually became the band manager, but that's not something that a lot of women did in the 70s.
Did not do in the 70s.
Right.
Manage. No, I was their office manager for a few years, and then when
Tell the truth.
I got fired after a few years because I didn't really get along with the manager after a while. But that's a different story. But then when Rod Price, our slide guitarist, left Foghat, I managed him for a couple of years. And after a few years of management, I decided that I'm the type of person that puts in 150%. It was tough at that point, putting in 150% and having it predicated on people's emotions and problems. So I got out of the music business, got into computers, and did very well at that. And then Roger and I got together in '97. I wanted nothing to do with the music business at the time. I said, I'll be fluff when I come on the road with you, honey. I'll be your girlfriend. I was doing really well as a computer consultant, setting up hardware and software and networks and everything. And then Lonesome Dave passed away in 2000. And I was the likely candidate to manage the band. And, you know, we talked about it, and I was a little bit reluctant working with my husband, you know, because we love each other. But he's a drummer, I'm a manager, and I think I can count on one hand the times we've disagreed on anything. In 25 years we've been together now. So I started managing them in 2000. things were not great at the time. So it's been 22 years of rebuilding Foghat, because at the time they were pretty heavily in debt, doing clubs and stuff, and it's been great. I mean, we had to overcome well, it's not really Foghat because it's not Lonesome Dave, we had to overcome all that stuff, but it's been wonderful.
So when you think about everything that, everything that women as a whole have had to go through in this industry, even now, there's a lot of representation, but it's still kind of very isolated representation. So how do you feel about, when you talk about like your experiences in this industry, how have they impacted you and made you feel as a woman and trying to change that for the future?
Truthfully, Samara, I don't pay attention to a lot of that. I really don't. I really never have, because being in the computer business was very male-oriented too, right, as is the music business. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with people that get it. And if they don't get it, you deal with him. Really, if they have a problem dealing with a woman, the way I look at it, that's their problem, because I think men and women have a lot to offer where we both approach things a little bit different.
Correct.
Okay, right. We approach things differently. So rather than be adversarial about it, work together. Realize what your strengths are and what his strengths are, So I've really tried not to let it bother me. And I tell women, just maintain your femininity. I'm a woman. Mm-hmm. I maintain my femininity. I dress like a woman. I'm not going to dress I'm not going to dress in man-tailored clothes just to try to be a man in a man's world. I'm not. I'm a woman in the world, so that's the way I've approached it. I don't let it bother me too much.
Well, I've always liked women, in fact.
we know that, Roger.
In fact, I love that dress you have on.
No, but we have just about, there's only women in the office, right?
Yeah.
Our bookkeeper.
Rose,
Rosemary.
Audrey, Lynn, yeah.
Yeah.
Our travel agent, yeah.
Yeah.
Men on the road, women in the office.
Yeah. It works. We're very, very well organized.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We don't have issues on the road.
Right.
The worst it gets is we turn up to our hotel on a Sunday and the person that Rose talked to on Friday is no longer there. Well, I don't think we have your reservation. Yes, you do. Rose called you. Rose who?
Okay.
It's the detail. You know what? It's paying attention to detail, and I think that's something that we have. Like women will do, or as we pay attention to detail. And I also have to say that I'm very aware. If I see anything going on, we all talk about stuff. It's kind of like a marriage, because I think that one of the worst things that happens with bands, and in the music business, people stop getting along, things fall apart. But we've always been able to talk about stuff, so it's been really good.
And the creative side of it, we also have a studio down here in Florida, in DeLand, and it took us a while. Well, actually, no, it was back in 2007, was it?
We bought the house, yeah.
Yeah. We needed somewhere to work. If we were going to be creative, especially after we lose our lead singer, who was our main songwriter and basically the heart and soul of the band, and we'd lost our lead guitar player, slide player.
Right.
I figured we had to be creative. You have to, the band has to be able to play and have somewhere to go and chill and just play. Mm-hmm. And we have the neighbors are fine. We can play it from,
You guys can be my neighbors. I can tell you that right now. I will not have a problem listening to y'all play any time of the day. You can come be my neighbor too. Anybody that complains about you guys playing music,
nobody complains.
I was about to say, do those people exist?
We're in the middle of nowhere, on 10 acres, and then we got 2 or 3 locals become friends, and they keep an eye on the place when we're not there. And they said, no, leave the doors open.
Yeah, right.
So we like listening to you, and it works. It's there's no red lights. it's a house where the band hangs out. We've got 3-4 bedrooms.
We've got, if we didn't have that house, we would not have that. We've put out 8 albums since 2000.
Wow.
With this, since I've been managing them, I realized that today we put out 8. We put out 3 studio albums and like 5 live albums. And but the house, because we have 4 bedrooms, when we're going out on tour, we go down there, we can rehearse. Okay. They sit around and they write. We've done our 3 studio albums there, like most of Under the Influence. But now they're working on a new record. We're hanging out, we have dinner. We're not renting studio time where we have X amount of time to get this done. We can work whenever we want, and it's great. This record is going to be really great.
And everybody has a life. If somebody's got to go and see, like Brian, our lead and slide guitar player, his daughter's at, what is it called? The
She
college.
goes to Stetson.
Stetson.
Great musician.
Yeah, she plays,
Everything.
everything.
She's like Brian,
if
she's like her father.
If there's a concert going on there, we get to go there and see Jordan, and I met her when she was like...
We were there when she was born.
When she was born, tiny. And now she's playing bass and percussion and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool stuff. We can still be people.
Right.
And then we go to the concert and go back, come back to the house and start playing again.
Because you're people. And I'm sure you enjoy the break from the cold up north in New York. Listen, I get it.
I don't do well with the cold anymore.
I never have, so I understand that completely. I've never lived anywhere where it's cold. I can't.
Mostly from New York.
But no, New York is, we live on Long Island, and I love it up there. I mean, the spring and summer, but by the time December rolls around, it's like...
Yeah. It's good.
And I don't deal well with ice and snow. Not that we've had any this year, have we?
We've had no snow this year at all. We had like 1 inch, I think, a few months ago. It's been a really strange
We were
winter.
up there, it was like 60, 70 degrees one day.
We were in New York City, February 15th. We had to go to your shoulder doctor.
Right.
And it was 70 degrees in New York City. People are walking around in shorts in New York City.
T-shirts.
February 15th.
Yeah,
that was unheard of.
It is definitely. I mean, we're going through our own heat wave down here.
You know about this stuff. Who am I talking to?
But not.
I'm talking to the meteorologist here. I'm telling her about how strange it is.
No, I agree with you because I'm glad you acknowledge that it is kind of weird because we're going through the same thing right now here in Florida where we're seeing near record heat. But that's a whole.
Look at L.A. I just got a text from Fred this morning. He's in San Diego, but they had a little bit of it. L.A. just got slammed.
Yes.
I mean, the weather out in California is horrible.
Yeah, it has been very rough for
crazy.
them. So when we're talking about how the group has changed, you did mention Brian, and I do believe now you have Scott.
Scott Holt.
Right. So all of these changes over the years how has that been watching it kind of morph into what Foghat is now?
I think a quote. It's been a long, strange trip. One other thing I have to say, though, throughout our career, I've always played with great players. Our lead singer, retired, who was with us for 20 years, Charlie Hume, great guitar player, great singer, used to sing with Humble Pie and a few other bands.
Victory. Ted Nugent.
Ted Nugent. And after Lonesome Dave passed, I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to carry on, but for some reason we've always found great musicians, great players, great singers. And Scott Holt, I met him in 2015. We had a mutual friend who was a photographer, and he came down to the house and we just started jamming and became good friends. In fact, he co-wrote and sang on a number of...
Under the Influence, we were looking for understudies for everyone.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because...
Talk to the manager.
We were looking for... Well, Brian had a procedure done, and we needed somebody to fill in for him. And then I realized at that time that we're all getting to that point, if something happens and we're in the middle of a tour, we need somebody to be able to fill in. Mm-hmm. So we had Matt for Brian, we had somebody for bass. So then Scott came down to do some Foghat stuff, and we just hit it off with Scott, you know. They hit it off so well
Sorry about
that
this.
they ended up writing, I don't know, 15 or 16 songs
17.
together. 17 songs together. And we didn't know what to do with this, so they put another band together called Earl and the Agitators. It was like a side project. And Earl and the Agitators actually went out and opened for Foghat for a number of shows.
So I'd be playing for what, 3 hours? And it's like
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot
Silly,
of fun.
actually.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So when Charlie decided to retire a couple of years ago, Scott was the natural.
I should give Charlie a call.
We should. But Scott played with Buddy Guy for 10 years, for a long time, and he's just an amazing guitar player, amazing singer, and they write so well together. I have to say, I've never seen him as creative as he is with Scott and Brian and Rodney. I mean, he's really...
It's not anything to do with the alcohol or the drugs, is it?
No. Oh, the 70s maybe the drugs, but the alcohol
70s.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you expect to hear, you know, at some point or another, especially in rock and roll, because, I mean, it was what, in the 70s, sex, drugs, and
Rock and roll.
Wrong.
There you go. Those are the three. So, when you think about some of your best memories together, or just from your perspective being in the band and playing, what is just that one moment that sticks out to you the most?
That's easy.
That's easy, yeah.
Of course, there have been many, because we've played everywhere. 1977,
September.
we were working or had just finished the Stone Blue album, I believe. And we were, I think it was, it came up about working with some blues musicians and doing a tribute to the blues.
Danny Goldberg came up with the idea.
Who was our publicist at the time. And of course, me being a blues fan, Lonesome Dave being a blues fan, Rod Price being a blues fan, we said, we'll do it. And it was the New York Palladium, and we had Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, Willie Big Eye Smith playing drums with Muddy.
Pine Top Perkins,
on
Johnny
piano,
Winter, Paul
Butterfield,
Butterfield, Honey Boy Edwards, Eddie Kirkland.
It was
Wow.
It was
Awesome.
fantastic, and we were basically the house band. So we were once we started, we didn't get paid. Everybody else did. So the band would be in New York, you know, at various rehearsals and stuff, because you know we wanted to be involved in everything. And like with Eddie Kirkland, he was with some band from somewhere that was backing him, and me and Dave said, well, we'll do this, right? And yeah, right. So we said, well, he doesn't need them. We'll do it. And then a few other people, we said, no, you don't need your band. We'll do it. Muddy Waters' band we kept, because like that was something else. He had some of the finest blues players ever. That was a thrill of a lifetime, meeting Muddy and John Lee Hooker, and just hanging out, getting to play with Eddie Kirkland. I'd already jammed a number of times with Paul Butterfield. That was a highlight. But the main thing I take from this, and remember, 77, so you know, tons of money. You know, I didn't know what, you know. Mum and Dad came over from England. I think it was Dad's 60th birthday. And of course, I was the youngest in the family of 3 boys, and the youngest is now playing with his musical heroes, because they knew who Muddy Waters was and John Lee Hooker, etc., because I had the records when I was a kid. And I introduced Mum and Dad to Muddy. Mr. Waters, this is my mum and dad. Mum and Dad, Mr. Muddy Waters. And it was like, that was a highlight of my career.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, no, it was something else, and it was a fantastic night.
I'm sure, because all from the time where they supported you from banging on all the china, where you were banging on this
They
earlier.
didn't, no, they didn't support me. They tolerated me.
They tolerated.
Well, his brother, his older brother Colin, was the keyboard player in Mungo Jerry in the summertime.
Really?
So they had two sons that had hit, that were very famous.
And just a little bit of the singer in Mungo Jerry was the lead singer in the first band I was in.
Yeah.
Ray Dorset,
Yeah.
who hopefully I'll get to see when we get over to England this spring.
The blues show was fabulous.
I'm sure.
I worked my butt off.
Tell the story.
Tell the story.
Tell the story, please. I'm a big fan of blues music, and in fact, and blues and rock just.
Well, we filmed it. It was a 4-hour show. We filmed it.
And recorded it.
We recorded it. We filmed it, and John Lee Hooker. We had backstage. We had all this stuff, and I was coordinating. I was the production coordinator on the thing. So I said, Mr. Hooker, can I get you something to eat? And he was looking around and says, baby, all I want's a bologna sandwich. I said, okay, we don't have any bologna. I said, I'll send it out for, he said, I don't want one of them big bologna sandwiches. I want a little bologna sandwich, white bread, little bologna, so I sent out for a bologna sandwich for him. We filmed it. And the producer, David Silver, of the show went out to LA to edit it, and he was out there for a couple of months. And he called me one day and he said, Linda, there's this TV festival in Cannes just before the film festival, and you could bring film out there and we could sell this video, It was on Don Kirshner's rock concert, right?
Yeah, I think it was called the Blue Jean Network at the time. But
they did 56 minutes on midnight on a rock concert. So I told my boss at the time, their manager, and David said, I'd like you to go with me. So they said, okay. So we went to Cannes, and we had this blues show. And it was pretty cool. It was like you had a booth. It was like a convention, and we're showing the show to all these. A lot of them are state-owned TV stations, right? So I showed it to like the TV guy from Kuwait, for instance. And now Eddie Kirkland, who was on the show, I ended up managing him after that. He's playing, and during the show, during his performance, he gets his guitar. He's on the ground, on the floor, and he's like humping the stage. It was a great performance. He was a piece of work. This guy from TV looks at, well, we cannot show this to the youth of our country. I said, oh, we can edit that out. So anyway, it was a successful trip. I get home, and our lawyer, I was 26 at the time, our lawyer calls me and said, Linda, do you have releases from all the artists on the show? I said, what's a release? I'm 26 years old. I'm not the record company or the management,
Right.
So I had to start working on releases, getting releases from all these people. And one of them was Otis Blackwell, who wrote a lot of Elvis Presley stuff. So I got some of the releases, and it was a big job getting releases after the fact, because it's sync licenses, right, for music and video together. So I worked really hard on it, and after a few months, my boss walked in one day and he said, the blues show, forget it, it's history. We're done, it's history. And that was the end of the blues show.
he wasn't a blues fan, the band was.
And to this day,
Who won him?
I eventually got fired, like I said. To this day, people say I have a vendetta, but I still am trying to get the blues show. And it's in the basement at Warner Brothers because Bearsville sold everything to Rhino. And we've talked to them, said, can't we go in the basement and look for this? Well, somebody that I'm talking to just found it, found all the tapes and everything down there. So I'm still working on it 46 years later.
And there was like 4 hours of music, and we have CDs.
We have CDs. It's not about the money at all.
No.
It's history.
Yes.
At the end, it's on YouTube because a record company in Holland ended up putting a bootleg out from the TV show, which is fine. But there's a grand finale. They do I Just Want to Make Love to You, and Muddy Waters starts it, and he's got John Lee. Everybody's singing, everybody's playing. There's 20 people on stage doing I Just Want to Make Love to You. It's fabulous. I'll send you the link to watch it.
Please, yeah.
It's fabulous. So it was a highlight and a bummer
at the same time. Oh, man. See, people
There
don't
was a
know
few
everything
others.
that goes into it.
There were a few others.
Yeah.
but we can't talk about it now.
Willie Dixon. You met Willie Dixon. That was a highlight for you.
That was another highlight, yeah. Yeah. Our first single off the first album was I Just Want to Make Love to You. It was written by Willie Dixon, originally performed by Muddy Waters. And we sort of did it differently. Probably ruined it. Some people say no. Anyway, it was a hit off the first album, so Willie was receiving writers' royalties. Then in 77, we released our Foghat Live, and it was released as a single off of the live album. So
you did 3 nights in Chicago.
Yeah, we did 3 nights at the amphitheater in Chicago. So now Willie Dixon's getting all this money from a band called Foghat. So the first night he sends his daughter down, like we treat her like the princess she is, and everything was fine. The second night, his son Butch and his daughter come down again, and we treat them like the prince and princesses they are, because as far as we're concerned, these people are like royalty. Mm-hmm. And on the third night, the man himself comes down. And I remember Lonesome Dave saying to the audience, without Willie Dixon, there would be no rock and roll, which was pretty close to the truth, actually. And it was a fabulous night. And then Willie invited us over to his house on the south side of Chicago, but we were leaving the next day. But we came back about 6 or 7 months later and spent... we were at his house. We got there about 4 in the afternoon, and we didn't leave until 4 in the morning.
And his wife made what? And Dave was a vegetarian.
Yeah, Lonesome Dave's a vegetarian. And she made chicken and everything. She said, "Well, you can have some chicken, right?" And he said, "No." It was beautiful because she didn't quite get it why Dave could get some chicken.
Oh my goodness.
But it was a fabulous night. And I remember Willie would, because Dave was a real fiend about sort of old blues records, the same with Rod as well. And Willie would talk about records that he produced in way back when. And then he sent one of the kids up to the loft in his house and come down with a record, and it was... Dave would look at it and go, like it's gold. It was, it was, you know what's beautiful about that, really, when you meet your musical heroes, and not only do they not let you down, they sort of just amaze you about how cool they are and how real they are. That was another highlight. There's probably numerous highlights. No, let's not talk about that one. You have the floor.
Well, I can imagine that you have just a vault of stories that are just absolutely amazing. But what does it feel like whenever you see the younger generation? I just want to let you know, I know you already guys know, but I was watching Maverick, the new movie,
yeah.
And when Slow Ride came on, I was like, bing, he's like, I love this song. And I was like, I do too. But there's obviously others that I love too. But when you hear the younger generation, like 20s, rocking to your music, I mean, not on TikTok, okay? That doesn't count. That is that cracks me up.
At shows, they come, young people.
How does that make you feel?
Great.
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero
Yes.
was sort of a start of it because Slow Ride was on there. And, we get 6 and 7-year-olds bringing their little plastic guitars to sign. And, I think it says something about, rock and roll music, or maybe the music that we've created over the years, that it's, timeless. But, it's cool having young people coming to hear you and see you, because maybe you got it right in the first place.
Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
And like today, I mean, we're still working. We do between 60 and 70 shows a year. And we get a lot of younger people, people our age. They're not, they're probably sitting in front of the telly and not getting up. But
there are plenty, even though I'm sure they're not banging on drums the way you are right now. I mean, you just had shoulder surgery and you're already back because she booked you 8 weeks later.
Doctor said 8 weeks.
She's like, 8 weeks, Roger.
I had a really good surgeon. Actually, a quick story about how you tore your shoulder, Roger. We just played in, it was last February, wasn't it? And we played in Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. And we drove back across the
we had a
Sound.
blizzard and we had to stay an extra day.
Right, that's true. So there's 3 feet of snow in our yard when we get home. So
wait, what did your wife say? And your girlfriend say to you? And your manager say? Roger.
They said, no, don't shovel, Roger, because my two brother-in-laws, who are considerably younger than me,
He's sitting on the side.
will shovel snow. I said, no, because I wanted to show off in front of the girlfriend.
I was impressed.
Yeah. So I started shoveling, and after about the third or fourth shovel, it was a big shovel like this.
He was on his back.
And I went, boing, boing. I went, oh dear.
Tore the hell out of his shoulder.
But I didn't get it done until the following December.
He played all year, and we would ice it after every show, because we had all these shows booked.
And I taped it up with whatever it was. But it was, that was interesting. Now I'm much better now.
I'll tell you something. You're rocking it. You're killing it. I love it. 51 years of Foghat, and I can tell you, it's going to live forever.
Well, I'm going to roll till I'm old and rock till I drop. One of the things about playing, especially in this band, I mean, everybody, they're all great players and we all get on great. In fact, most of the time throughout my career, I think the band always got on really well anyway. I mean, I can't remember a time like that we didn't. It's fun, playing in a rock and roll band.
You've always had fun. Always. Of all the people.
Isn't fun the best thing to have?
That's why I married you.
But why would you want to retire? Because our last lead singer retired, and that must be hard to do anyway, but I wouldn't want to. It's so long as I can play and play to the ability that I need to be able to and want to. I play drums in a great rock and roll band. Why do I want to stop? Look at the Stones.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw them a few years back, didn't we? In Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, yeah.
And they were fantastic. But play music. I mean, I imagine working in an office, you might want to stop at some time or another.
Sometime or another.
Sometime,
sure.
Yeah, but no, my office is. Oh no.
This is his office right here.
Yeah, you can have those.
Oh.
There you go.
I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much. Oh, wow.
Or you could give them
And
to your
they're still
dad.
warm. No, these are mine. These are so mine. Wow. And they're still warm. You know how fans usually are just oh my goodness. That's the napkin he used. It's his drumsticks. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One last note before we
Yes.
go. What would you guys say to your fans and to everyone that has supported you about their importance in your lives?
Well, without people coming to our shows and supporting us, we'd all be out of work.
Very true.
Our fans have been fantastic, and the new fans that we've garnered over the years. The truth is, it's about the music. It's about how you play, what you play, the songs you play. Songs are like a moment in time, and music's always changing as well, and it should. It shouldn't remain the same, but we've been around for a while, and there's plenty of people that want to come and see us. Also, the sort of music that we play, even though the original band we were all English, music comes from America. This is the land of music. This is where it all comes from. All our influences when we were growing up, and the music we used to listen to was American music. Jazz, blues first, because then you get jazz and you get bebop, and you get, country, you get country and western, you got hillbilly, you got rock and roll, you got religious music. What's the term for that?
Gospel.
I knew that. Gospel music. I mean, sometimes when I'm fiddling on the radio, we're on the road, and we'll get this gospel station coming on. Listen to the music. It's like this. It's wonderful, and this is the country where it all comes from. We've got this wonderful melting pot of music, and it comes, of course, obviously from Africa, but the European countries like England and Wales and Scotland and France even, and Italy and Spain. There was all this music and, folk music that comes from it. Mm-hmm. And this is where it all came. It's got this wonderful melting pot, and music comes from here. And I'm glad to be here. This is my adopted home.
Well, we're glad you're here, and Linda, we're glad you're here as well. I mean, I know you're from here, right?
Oh, yeah,
from New York.
I'm
Okay,
New
thought so.
York.
Thought so. I'm like, no, you're from here. But I'm so glad that you found a second home, or a main second home. I would say your adopted home, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I wanted to come here ever since I was a child. I told this story about a week ago to somebody, but I was about 7 or 8. I told my older brother I wanted to go to America. I was going to stow away, and I'm 8 years old. So I think I was probably maybe a few months later, when I was 8 or 9, I started packing my bags, and I'm going to.
Wow.
And he said, "Don't be so stupid."
Aww.
Well, no,
Brotherly love,
I mean, this sort of thing I would do. I would wander out the house with a bag, and off I'd go.
That's an extreme one, Mom. It's not running away down the street. It's I'm running away to America. That's a whole ocean away.
It's different than just running down the street. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well,
I just want to say, I really would like to thank our fans, really, because it was a real challenge when we lost Dave. And we had to get over a lot of humps. So it's not the real Foghat, it's not this, it's not that. We had to go through all that stuff, And our fans have really stuck with us, And our mantra through the whole thing was, it's about the music. It's about the music. Do you want the music to go away? How many bands from the 70s have all their original members anymore? Anyway, it's about the music.
It is.
And I think we've really overcome that. We get that very rarely now, But it was a challenge for several years.
Well, it's also a challenge because you have, you don't replace somebody like Dave. You just need you need a new singer.
Yeah, we didn't try to replace. You don't replace Dave. You don't replace Rod. Brian played with Dave Peverett for a long time, and
Rob Price.
And Rod, he played with Rod. Charlie was a huge Foghat fan, huge Dave fan. So it's been, but I really thank our fans. We have the most amazing fans. We really do, old and new. They really are spectacular people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
We'd be nothing without you lot.
We wouldn't. And we used to do a meet and greet after every show. They would go out and sign for like an hour or two. We had to stop that with COVID.
Yeah.
But every show, they'd be exhausted, and they'd be out there signing and signing and signing and talking to people because, and the promoters say, you want to charge for this? You can charge for meet and greets. And I always said, no.
Absolutely not.
Why not? You can make money. I said, no, because if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't be here, So.
But they have to buy a T-shirt. But we'll sign scraps of paper and whatever they have.
Napkins.
Check.
Yeah. Check. You can sign that check. I like that. I like
sign
the
check.
Just this little piece of paper here.
Right.
Check. Don't worry about it. Well, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're on tour working on another album. I cannot wait. Do you have a date on that yet?
No, we don't have a date yet.
We're
Probably
getting
this summer.
We're just finishing up now. We've just got a couple of guitar overdubs. We've got about 12, 13 songs. I don't know, 1 or 2 might not go on there, but Kim Simmons, the guitar player with Savoy Brown, longtime friend, sent me 3 or 4 songs about 2 years ago. So we've got a couple of those on there as well.
He passed away in December. Yeah. He was going to be a special guest on this record, and I feel like the songs that he sent were a gift from Kim.
Yeah, they were.
Really are. They were beautiful songs.
And we're going to go out, and we've already booked about 30 or 40 shows, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do about 60 or 70 a year. whatever
We're
the
getting
drama
back there
can
again.
have.
With COVID, it kind of, but we're
dip,
getting there.
right? Yeah.
So it's good.
Well, I'm excited, and everybody, of course, keep in touch on you have a website, correct?
Absolutely, Foghat.com.
Foghat.com, and that's where all your tour dates will be as
All
well.
our tour dates are there. And when we play down here, you'll be coming. You'll be our special guest.
I cannot wait to
And
rock
Jimmy.
out with you guys. Yes, and Jimmy. Jimmy, he's gonna be so excited to hear
And
that.
Jimmy.
Hear that, Jimbo? You're coming along.
Jimmy,
So
You'll be our special guest. Anybody here that we're working with.
my director's like, yeah.
Okay.
We're coming too.
Okay.
Everybody's coming. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules and your busy lives. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your music and everything that you've given to rock and roll and to just,
I had a really good time today. Thank you.
No, thank you. This has been a blast. I said, I hoped I didn't have this plastered smile on my face the entire time, but I can't help it because you guys are just wonderful people, and thank you so very much for joining me today.
It's great to meet you, too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
same here. Life is good.
Life is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to do it for this episode of Riff on This. Stay locked in tight. I'll have another episode coming to you soon. Thanks for listening to Riff on This, and a huge thank you to our rocking guests, Foghat's own Roger Earl and band manager Linda Arcello-Earl. Please follow the band on Instagram or Facebook by searching Foghat. And don't forget, you can link me on my social media. Just search Samara Kokinas News 6 on Facebook and Twitter. On Instagram, search Samara Kokinas. And before we go, a huge thank you to our behind-the-scenes production team, Derek Mosier, Ryan Haley, Chris Flora, Joe Grinnan, and Bob Myers. Please take some time to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget, sharing is caring, so tell a friend about us too. You can find videos of all the podcast episodes on clickorlando.com/riffonthis. Until next time, friends.